AT&T Stadium in Arlington for the second straight week will welcome in Cowboys Nation, but this week it's all about the art of desperation as both teams, the Baltimore Ravens starting at 0-2, the Dallas Cowboys with a blowout loss in week 2, trying to right the ship as they enter week 3 of the 2024 NFL season. We are Cowboys Pregame Live, presented by WinStar World Casino and Resort, live from the Star in Frisco, Texas. We've got Barry Church, Isaiah Stanback, Nate Newton. I'm Kyle Yeomans. Glad you're with us. We have Nicole Hutchison and Nick Eatman standing by at AT&T Stadium momentarily as we lead you up to kickoff on Fox 325. Cowboys and Ravens for the first time since 2020. These two teams don't get together a whole lot. Only the 7th all-time meeting between the two franchises. Baltimore has won 5 of the first 6 meetings, and this one has a little extra juice to it. Which team do you feel like has more desperation at hand going into this one?
Well, to me, it's got to be the Baltimore Ravens. I mean, you can't start 0-3, and the numbers back that up as well. I mean, when you look at it, 0-3 teams, I believe, have a 2.5% chance of making it to the postseason. And if you look at their 2 previous losses, they're against AFC opponents. So they're already down when you talk about the AFC standings. If you go 0-3, the people within that organization, the players, they're going to start to question that championship pedigree. So to me, Baltimore Ravens, they're under a lot of pressure.
I completely agree with you, BC, and the reason why is because the Baltimore Ravens, again, they're facing 0-3. Now, when's the last time you heard of John Harbaugh going 0-3? Yet never. Okay, it hasn't happened in the past, okay, and obviously you have some new additions in Henry that has to get going. He hasn't had his feet going too much this year yet, but those guys are, and you have the backup MVP in terms of Lamar Jackson. Both of those guys have to show up and shout in a big way. The Dallas Cowboys also have their backs against the wall, like you mentioned, though, Kyle, because if they lose today, that means that they're going 0-3 in their last 3 home games after giving up 90 points their last 2.
You know what? Lamar, John Harbaugh, all these guys, great. All we care about is Cowboys Nation. These Cowboys have the most desperation on them since, about 4 years ago when McCarthy walked in here? Guess what? If we don't get crunk up, he'll be walking out along with them. This thing is tight right about now. So if the players don't get a little bit more physical and play a little bit more harder and win this game, the hot seat going to be smoking.
Shane Newton bringing the heat early on. Just to add some of those percentage points, you mentioned 2.5%. 4 out of 162 teams that have started 0-3 haven't made the playoffs. None have won the Super Bowl. But to add to it, 1-2. If either one of these teams, if the Ravens win today, both teams will be 1-2. Only 25% make the playoffs. If you're 2-1, like the Dallas Cowboys have an opportunity today, over 55%. It increases significantly based on how you start your season, which does prove to the importance of this Week 3 matchup. Now, a lot of it doesn't have to do with the record. A 1-1 record isn't as bad. I mean, most of the league is probably 1-1 at this point. But, Nate, it was the way they lost last week that is concerning for the Dallas Cowboys, and the defense had a big part in that. The Cowboys defense last week, take a look at the 13 wins and the 7 losses since the beginning of the 2023 season, including that playoff loss that Isaiah mentioned to Green Bay in the wild card round. It's significant when the defense plays well. You normally win football games. I mean, that's not necessarily breaking news to football fans out there, but Barry, how does this defense get back on track?
I think you got to be more physical as a unit. You got to go out there and be more physical. When you look at it, the last 2 home appearances that this defense has had, if you include that Green Bay game, they've given up 333 yards on the ground. Now, that's inexcusable. To me, it's not about scheme. It's not about play calling or get your guys involved in the right spaces. You got to go out there and you got to win your one-on-one battles. You got to shed blocks and you got to make plays out there. That's what it comes down to, winning your one-on-one battles. And so far this season, we have not seen it from this rush defense for the Dallas Cowboys.
Fight back. Simply put, fight back. You're going to get punched in the mouth. Last week, you got punched in the mouth over and over and over again. No pun intended with Marshawn Lynch. But you got punched in the mouth a lot and you didn't fight back at all. Now, same thing back to Green Bay last year. Now you're facing a team that you know is going to come in and challenge you. They're going to call you out. They're going to call out a flaw in your character. And they're going to see, are you going to respond? Are you going to step up and meet it? Because if not, we're going to go ahead and run this ball over and over and over again.
I'm with these two guys. I have not much more to add. You just have to be physical. You have to grab turf. They're playing in Texas Stadium. I mean, the A&T. Grab that turf, man, and hold on to everything you got, man. Be a Bulldog today.
You got to find a way to get it done, and you're going to have to do so against a physical Ravens front that likes to run the football. In 2023, the Ravens led the league in terms of rushing attack. Lamar Jackson is a big part of that, as probably the best dual threat in all of football at this point. But also, they add a guy in this offseason named King Henry. Derrick Henry is still a dude, and he's been playing, of course, maybe off to a slow start whenever it comes to yardage, but he does have a touchdown in each of his first 2 games. Isaiah, when you look at what he brings to this Ravens offense, how does it change things up front for the Cowboys front 7?
You know, I think it's just the physicality. I think that's the main reason why they brought him into this organization. I'm not sure that they have figured out exactly how to work that tandem between him and Lamar Jackson just yet. That mesh is not fully integrated yet, but trust it's not going to take too long before they figure it out. They gave him a pocket full of money. They have a big boy fullback in Rashard right there in front of him who's 300 pounds. You follow that up with Derrick Henry at 255 pounds. No matter what, you better stop him in the backfield because he is the juggernaut. If he crosses the line of scrimmage, you're going to have a problem on your hands. And I think he has a little bit of incentive because he has a custom house here, he lives here, he trains here, and Dallas never gave him an offer. So he's going to have a point to prove today.
Yeah, you're 1,000% right. I mean, I've gone against Derrick Henry a multitude of times when he was at the height of his powers. I'm talking about in Tennessee, and this is one of the hardest running backs that you got to bring down in the National Football League. You like to call him the juggernaut, and I think that's a perfect comparison because once this guy gets going, once that momentum starts rolling, he's almost impossible to bring down. The way to slow this guy down is you got to move him sideline to sideline. You can't let him go straight downhill at your defense because they'll start carrying cats that way. You got to hit him in the backfield. You got to hit him at the line of scrimmage. Do not let him get going because I'm telling you, he's almost like a train out there. It's impossible to stop. You got to hit this guy early in the backfield.
The way they have lost games, coming down the stretch, ran out of time. Toe tap, yeah. You know what Harbaugh's saying? What are we strong at? We lead the league in running. We went out and got that juggernaut y'all talking about. We haven't used him. So he probably knocked on the coordinator's office today and said, I need 25 carries. Yeah.
He's trying to get going, right? You want the carries for Derrick Henry because if he's a train, like you said, if he's a freight train rolling downhill, when that momentum is there, that's when he's most dangerous.
Yeah, we don't go grab an asset like that to put him on the shelf.
No,
right?
no,
So to that point, right, you have Lamar Jackson, who's the most dominant single offensive player in the league, right? He's been voted that way 2 times now in his career. And then you go out there and you get Derrick Henry, who's one of the most feared offensive running backs in the game. You do not allow for him to go 3 consecutive games without getting over 100 yards. Is probably going to happen. Dallas better step their game up today.
Well, let me ask this because, Barry, like you said, you got an opportunity to face Derrick Henry on a multitude of occasions. He's the same age as Ezekiel Elliott. Both of them came in that 2016 draft class, second-round pick for Derrick Henry, first-round pick, of course, for Zeke. So in terms of father time in the running back position, it's inevitable, right?
Oh, yeah.
How is he different now than what he was back in the day?
I think he lost a little bit of a step. I mean, when you look at Derrick Henry, when I was playing against him, you give him a sliver out there, he can take it 99 yards. He, in fact, did take 99 yards against the defense I was playing with out there. So he lost a little bit of that step. He's still that juggernaut. He's still that downhill guy. But defensively, you can't be afraid of that. You still got to hit this guy in the mouth, all right? He's going to come downhill at you, but you got some strength behind you as well. You got to hit him in the mouth, and don't be afraid. Just because he's a big guy, he can fall just like the rest of them.
So when you hit him, what does it feel like?
Oh, it feels like you're hitting a brick wall.
Okay,
right? You in the ice tub afterwards for sure.
Barry might as well just run straight that way and just keep going. It might be the same thing. Now, this isn't the last time we'll break down Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry and what they do. Barry Church and church service a little bit later on. We'll go a little bit more in depth, so stay tuned. Eric Kendricks is excited about the opportunity for this defense to rebound in a big way. Here's what he said earlier in the week and really the opportunity for Mike Zimmer's bunch going into week 3.
Man, just this is a great opportunity we have. We're playing Baltimore Ravens. You know what I mean? So it's like this is a team that we've known these past couple of years to be a serious contender, and this is a huge opportunity for us to show what we're made of as a linebacker core. So have a smile on your face when you do when we're preparing. You know what I mean? Like it's not this is a great opportunity. This is what we love doing. This is what we want to do. Let's go out and do it. And you're gonna get hit in the mouth. It's like you wipe the blood off and get going. Let's go.
How would you assess Baltimore's run game? Obviously got Henry, a guy you've seen there.
It's versatile. It's very versatile. They have a lot of obviously pulling plays. They have quarterback runs. They have different running backs that kind of the salt and pepper kind of running back duo. And I think that it's just up to us to play our keys, but make a play on the blocks too. We got to make plays.
They also have a 300-pound
They have
fullback.
Exactly. I played against them, quite a bit in the last couple of years, and like I said, you know what you're gonna get, to a certain extent. But at the same time, you got to make plays. You got to, buck up. Let's go.
So Eric Kendricks, I don't know if I've ever heard anybody so excited to take a chance at this Ravens team and some of the different weapons that they have in store going into the weekend. But we'll talk a little bit more about those weapons as we go along. Let's hear from Nick Eatman on the sideline at AT&T Stadium for the first time. Nick, welcome in. It's another day, another opportunity for the Cowboys to put that Week 2 matchup behind them. What's the feeling around the stadium as the teams both take the field?
Well, I don't think kickoff can get here fast enough, and that was kind of the thought all week long with this team, was that when you have a game like they did Sunday, and the guys next to you know this better than anyone about just wanting to get back onto the field and just kind of rid the taste of that loss as quickly as possible. So I think that's the excitement. It's another opportunity, like you said. It's Week 3, still somewhat early in the season, and a chance to kind of show everybody what they really are, because they've said all week that that's not us. Well, there's a good chance to prove it is against the Ravens, and I bet you they don't feel like they're an 0-2 team either, but they are, and that's the reality.
That is the reality, and it's also a reality initially to get some of their guys back. I know we talked last week about Jake Ferguson. This week, Mazi Smith shows up on the injury report. Are there any other news in terms of those guys and how their availability is for this Ravens matchup?
Well, I just think when you have an opportunity, guys on the practice squad that you could bring up. So it kind of just shows you what they think about Ferguson being able to play. Not only that, but then, deciding not to put Princeton Fant up this week. So to make, give them have more tight ends. John Stevens was also inactive. So the fact, now you do have Hunter Lipke that can do different things, but I think that shows a lot of what they didn't do with what they think about Jake Ferguson, playing in this game. And as for Mazi Smith, the same type of thing. Yeah, he was on the injury report, but it was also very early on that they could tell he's probably going to be fine, going to be able to play.
So whenever it comes to the injury to Jake Ferguson, it did provide an impact, and it was a shot taken by this Cowboys offense last week. There's been plenty of criticism throughout the week of trying to find a true number 2 weapon outside of CeeDee Lamb. If he is available like you anticipate and as this team anticipates, do you feel like he's up to par to try and be that number 2 option on offense? And if not, who has to step up?
Well, I think that whether he's the number 2 or number 3, I don't know if that matters as much as that you need a weapon, especially at the tight end position. I think a tight end that can be a weapon is the most versatile guy really on your team, because you can run the football if he can do his job and block. You can also go down the field and make plays if he's that type of tight end, and Jake Ferguson is. So to me, just that weapon that he provides of you can still run, you can still pass, because he's on the field. When you have 2 guys that are tight ends that way, even better. And I think the Ravens actually do, so that could be a scary part. But, I mean, you don't have to say he's number 2 over Cooks or whatever, but if he's the tight end and he's making plays, that will open up things for Cooks. It will open up things for the running game. So Schoonmaker did a nice job. He caught every pass thrown his way, but there's definitely a difference when Ferguson's out there and Schoonmaker, and I think that Ferguson just provides more juice.
Alongside that criticism for the offense, there's also been plenty of criticism and conversation around this running back room. Ezekiel Elliott and Rico Dowdle, each with just 56 yards to their total to this point. I mean, is there maybe an extra chip on the shoulder for Mike McCarthy as a play caller for the running backs in general to get the job done against the Ravens defense that traditionally has been very good against the run?
Well, I think the focus is, and Kyle, forgive me, it's getting a little louder in here. I know you're talking about the running game. There's certainly a focus on this running game to get better. I think there's a difference within the organization, within the building, on who should be number 1 back. If you polled a lot of the coaches or the scouts or the front office, whatever, I bet you they all have a little different opinion, and that's not good, actually, when you're looking at it that way. I don't think the Ravens have that thought on who should be their number 1. I think they know who it is. For the Cowboys, you might get 4 different answers, and one of them's not even on the team right now, in Dalvin Cook. That's not a good thing. They need to establish that some way, and I think that today that they're going to have to figure that out. The committee thing is nice, but if you at least want one guy to step up, and I don't know who that will be. I do think Zeke will probably get the most of the carries, but expect to see a lot of Deuce Vaughn again in this game.
If it's your your insight, your guess, who will be the leading rusher whenever Week 3 comes to a close?
Leading rusher for the season? I mean, or
just
for this game?
Just for today.
Well, it doesn't matter because they're both tied, Rico and Zeke. So, yeah, I think the leading rusher for today will be, I want to say Dak Prescott, which is not good, but I'll say Zeke. I'll say Zeke.
I like it. You could have said Dak. That would have been interesting. I mean, even bringing it up does.
It would have been interesting, but that doesn't necessarily mean a lot of success. It's not the same. The one stat that I don't like that's out there right now is the Cowboys lead Lamar Jackson 170 to 167 for the season. They've got 170 as a team. He's got 167. If they win this game, they've got to stay above Lamar Jackson's total in this game.
I like that. I like that moving forward. Nick, we'll catch up with you on the sideline momentarily. Appreciate your time as always. Let's hear from Ezekiel Elliott because some of that frustration is certainly potent in that locker room and in that running back room as these guys try and figure things out. But it's not only about the longevity of these guys, it's about the effectiveness as well.
I think we need a lot of work. I think we got handle movement better. We gotta be more patient. It looks like week 2. It looks like week 2.
I know Mike talked about y'all haven't had a lot of carries to really assess it because y'all have, it is a tough the rotation. I know you're gonna be a rotation, but as a back, is it tough trying to get a rhythm going?
It's definitely tough. It's definitely tough. Maybe more so just because we haven't really had like any fluid game. We haven't played 4 full quarters yet. The first game, we played the first 3 quarters. Then that last game, we were behind. 14 in the first half. So we were kind of got in the 2-minute mode in the second half. So we really haven't had a chance to, I say, fully assess it.
You talked last week about how it's different not being in there all the time and taking the hits and kind of getting warmed up that way to the game. Rico was talking the other day about how the vision part of it is an adjustment to getting a flow of that. Can you talk about that?
I think the biggest thing is you can't press. You can't go chase the big play. You gotta play. You have to approach the game the same, like you're going to get 20 touches. You know what I mean? Like, you can't be like, okay, I only got 10 this week, and so I got to make the most of them. Like, you got to let the game come to you. So I think that's the biggest thing, just not trying to press and just kind of letting that game come to you.
Isaiah, I know there's been times throughout your career where you might want to press, you're down, you're not having success, and you want to find a way to the big play, but it doesn't just happen like that. How does this running back room find some of that juice and find some of the home run ability again?
I think they just got to trust the system. I think a lot of their trust comes right now in Mike McCarthy and what he's able to go out there and the situations he's able to put them in. But this offensive line has to find some form of continuity because they made the decision in the offseason when they decided to not bring in a feature running back that they were going to do this by committee. And when you do it by committee, that means that it doesn't matter who's back there. We trust our offensive line to create the holes, and we just haven't seen enough of that work to date yet. Right now, they are 26th in the league in terms of rushing. All right, last year they placed in the top 15, so they have some catching up to do, and they're going to be doing it against another platform and another team, obviously, in the Baltimore Ravens that like to run the rock as well.
The amazing thing about this, you said they chose to go running back by committee, but you also chose to go with 2 young offensive linemen at your most important positions, center and left tackle. These guys are still learning what to do. We're going to have to be patient, and the back's going to have to stay with the holes. If it's to the right between the tackle and the guard, you're going to have to ride that hole. You can't get overzealous like Dowd will do sometimes. And Zeke, when it becomes an open situation, you got to hit it, man. You got to hit it 90 going north. That's just how it's got to be.
And that's one of the things that I think this running back room can improve upon is maybe the sharing of these carries, the sharing of these opportunities. Don't let it just be Ezekiel Elliott and Rico Dowdle. You got to get guys like Deuce Vaughn involved. I know he's a little bit smaller. You've got a couple of other guys Dalvin Cook, we'll talk about that in a moment. But there's guys that you can give this football to outside of those two. You just got to find the right time to do it.
Yeah, it's a creativity factor, right? And, I think we talked about it a little bit earlier in terms of like getting CeeDee Lamb going, right? The versatility, the different looks. But ultimately, if you're going to have a guy that you need to come in there and change it up right now, it is Deuce Vaughn. And you cannot just insert Deuce Vaughn and expect him to be a dynamic back for you simply because he has a different characteristic. You can't put him in the same scheme. You have to get him some outside runs. You got to get some pre-snap motions. You got to put him on fly sweeps, get him on pitches, whatever it might be. Right, the same way that the Baltimore Ravens run a zone read and an RPO, you have that in your offense as well. So put your guys in the best position to do what they do best. It just can't look the same. It can't be a carbon copy no matter who's in the game.
This is the disadvantage of not playing in the preseason. You know, even our young guys didn't get enough reps in the in the preseason. So this is the chance you take when you're going to do running back by committee, put young guys into your offensive line. It's still another week or two out before we understand who and what and where we need to put these players.
Is it time to see Dalvin Cook and what he can do in terms of the running back room, or is that maybe just a shot in the pan? I mean, just a shot in the dark whenever it comes to running back.
I'm never going to sit up here and tell a man what he's unable to do. That's not my forte. but what I can say is Dalvin Cook, in terms of his attributes, are more of what you already have in that room. Dalvin Cook, Ezekiel Elliott, Rico Dowdle, all kind of the same back. All are good pass protectors. All are downhill backs. All are one cut guys that can catch the ball at the backfield. They're all the same guy. The only person that has any kind of difference is Deuce Vaughn. Yeah. And that's not only just because of his size, but because of his agility, his quickness, right, his ability to beat guys one-on-one. I don't think anybody else outside of Deuce Vaughn has the ability right now, from what we've seen on tape, to beat a guy one-on-one in space. You just have to put him in position to do so.
I think Dalvin Cook may have a little bit more punch than Zeke has. I think he has a little more open field running once he catches the ball, swinging out of the backfield. But still, he's not played in this system. He's not played with these players. Maybe if they wait a couple of weeks and then our offensive line get to grooving and moving, then, oh, wow, that's what we've been waiting on. But you know what? No, the offensive line just got a little better.
I like that. It's an unknown at this point. And at any point in this season, if it's an unknown, that doesn't mean it's a full-blown guarantee at any point. Now, it might be worth a look at some point. It won't happen this week. He has not been elevated from the practice squad. He is still available going forward on the practice squad, but Cowboys haven't done so just yet. Now, one of the other fixes for this offense is maybe to just throw the football around quite a bit. Dak Prescott, of course, second in MVP voting to the guy who he faces across the line of scrimmage today in Lamar Jackson last year. Is throwing the football around a significant portion today, guys? Is that going to be the ultimate difference maker, Isaiah?
Yeah, it definitely will be, but you have to earn that right to throw the ball. Yeah. So you could throw the ball all day long by just dropping back on early down and distances, and it's probably not going to work out in your favor because teams are going to be allowed to do whatever they want and dictate what you're allowed to do. Now, once you are able to establish a consistent and respectable running game, now you're able to open up your playbook. Now you're able to get them a single high safety because this defense of the Baltimore Ravens likes to sit in a two high shell. They like to sit up there and force everything and kind of funnel everything into the middle of their guys and then let their safeties and their linebackers run and hit. This is a physical team. You've heard us harp on this over and over again. So you don't want to be in that position, but if you are able to get them in a single high coverage, man-to-man defense, their corners can't stick CD. Their corners cannot stick Brandin Cooks. They're not cover corners. They're physical corners that know how to play really good zone defense.
Please understand what Isaiah is saying. You got to sprinkle a little run in that. And number two, you cannot drop the ball on these guys because it's like charm in the water for sharks. Once they see you dropping balls, they get more physical and more physical. So you have to catch the ball early and you have to earn the right. I agree with you 100%, Isaiah.
Does that 8-18 record that's at the bottom of the screen there, does that scare you at all with 40-plus pass attempts?
It does. I mean, just because when you're in that position where you're throwing the ball all over the place like that, then you're probably losing. Right, so you're probably behind. You're probably trying to catch up.
That's true.
And you don't want to be in that position against a physical outfit like this because the last thing you want is for them to be in a too high shell, forcing your receivers to take inside releases, and now CeeDee Lamb trying to catch the ball across the middle against this hard-hitting defense. Trust me, you do not want CeeDee Lamb to be on the ground and you have to go to a TV timeout.
Yeah, it is certainly something to take a look at. And I know that 8-18 number might be inflated, like you said, on the loss column because you're throwing it around. You're trying to play catch-up. But today it's all about keeping up with Lamar Jackson and this Ravens offense. There's a sense of urgency on the Cowboys offensive side, but also whenever you go up against the reigning MVP, it's never really a walk in the park. Here's Dak Prescott.
I mean, I think anytime you get out there, you should prep with a sense of urgency.
You should understand this is your job, and nobody wants to, as you said, to lose at home in general. Damn sure not put 2 back-to-back losses to start a season off at home. It's important us to get back in the win column. I understand it's a long season, and this is a good team to do that against. I understand they haven't got a win, and they're going to come in hungry. We've got to make sure that we're focused, locked in, and on all of our details on all 3 phases of this game.
With Jackson for years, or what you think of his game, and both of you being the top 2 of MVP last year, just kind of describe your relationship and peers. Sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, hell of a player. Always admire his game, what he can do, his talents. Amazing with the ball in his hands, hell of a thrower. Obviously, I've watched him, been a fan of him since he was at Louisville. So I mean, he's continuing to build on a great career. 2 MVPs. Just continue to say elite player, and understand. For me, it's about understanding the quarterback on the other side, what he's capable of doing, making sure that our offense is firing, and putting pressure on them rather than just letting them go and run an offense at will.
So the first time ever that Dak Prescott and Lamar Jackson will face off in a game. Dak was injured in the last meeting between these two back in 2020. And, of course, Lamar Jackson was not in the league yet. He was still at Louisville whenever the Ravens and the Cowboys played in Dak's rookie season. But here's the most team points per game by starting quarterback. And out of the active players since 1960, Lamar is second. Dak Prescott is third, only behind Patrick Mahomes. So both of these guys have had tremendous success throughout their careers. Both have had plenty of criticism as well throughout their careers, both in and out for Dak and Lamar. Let's talk about Lamar Jackson and this Ravens team down 0-2 to start the year. How much pressure is on this bunch going into the season?
Well, to me, there's a ton of pressure when you look at this team, because early on in the season, or before going into the season, this team was supposed to have great odds to go out there and hoist the Lombardi Trophy. Now they started out 0-2, and those 2 losses are against AFC opponents. So they're going down in the rankings when you talk about the playoff seeding. I know it's early in the season, but you don't want to go 0-3. We talked about it earlier. The percentages back it up. 0-3 teams, 2.5% chance of making it to the postseason. But what the Dallas Cowboys have to worry about in this situation is Lamar Jackson. All right, they got to take this guy out of the game, and to do that, you got to make him one-dimensional. You can't let him go out there and be that dual-threat quarterback that we all know, the 2-time MVP dual-threat quarterback. You got to force him to be one or the other, the scrambling Lamar or the passing Lamar. You can't let him go out there and do both.
You absolutely agree. You want to minimize his options, right? That's what you're trying to get to. Yep. But the reality is these guys are under a tremendous amount of pressure, not only for their record, but obviously in terms of trying to get things going. They are struggling right now to find some kind of sequence between Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. But once they figure that out, I think the entire league knows that once that happens, that is going to be a heck of a task to go ahead and take on. You just hope that it doesn't happen in week 3. Yeah. Okay, it hasn't happened in week 1, 2. You're hoping it doesn't happen today against the Dallas Cowboys. But once they figure that mesh out, it's going to be a problem, because you're going to have to, as a defensive safety, you know this, Barry, you're going to have to put an extra man in the box. You're going to have to come down there and play defense. And when you facing against a Lamar Jackson who is 75% completion rate to his tight ends, and he has 2 tight ends that are both balling out, it's kind of a scary combo. Just make sure that today is not that day they figure it out.
Well, let's talk about those tight ends. Isaiah Likely has, of course, turned some heads both in the fantasy football world and then, of course, in week 1 against the Kansas City Chiefs. But I think Mark Andrews showed that last week out that he is still a viable option on this offense. Since these two became teammates in 2022, Barry, they have been legitimate options for Lamar Jackson and company. How tough is it to slow down a 2 tight end set like this?
Oh, it's extremely tough when you talk about a defensive side of the football. First, you got Mark Andrews out there, all around tight end when you talk about great in the running game as far as blocking is concerned, and he's also a security blanket for Lamar Jackson out there. But to me, the guy is Isaiah Likely. That's the guy you got to keep your eyes on, because he's a mismatch nightmare for safeties, corners, linebackers, you name it. He's a mismatch nightmare out there for those guys. And what the Ravens love to do is they love to get in that 12 personnel, 1 running back, 2 tight ends, and they want to see what you do. They want you to pull your card and see how you're going to play it. If you go out there with big personnel, bring an extra linebacker in there, then they'll just simply split out Mark Andrews or split out Isaiah Likely, and they will tear you apart in the passing game. If you decide to, hey, let's bring in an extra DB, let's go with that nickel package, and let's see what they can do against that passing attack, then you're light in the box. There's only 6 defenders out there to go against Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry out there. So they kind of put you in a dill pickle right there. But to me, defensively, it's all about being physical and winning your one-on-one battles. But those 2 tight ends, they present a serious problem.
Yeah, they put you in a dill pickle, and you're probably going to need some pickle juice because you might be cramping up trying to keep up with both of these guys because, one, they both are physical backs. They both can pass block. They both can run block. So they literally are doing any, meeny, miny, mo in terms of who they want to play the ball to. It doesn't matter if they go strong side. It doesn't matter if they go weak side. Also, from the defensive perspective, when you have two tight ends that are both capable of blocking in the run, pass game, and catch the ball, once they get out into the routes, the amount of stress that they place on safeties is tremendous. Because now, it doesn't matter if you're in a single high or a two high safety, somebody has to drop down and take the cutters, right? Those guys like to run in routes where you have to come down as a safety. They like to run over routes where you have to come down as a safety. And if you're coming down onto a very capable tight end, then who are you not facing? You're not taking care of who? Zay Flowers, who can run the ball over the top of you on a big boy post route, just like Rashid Shaheed did last week. So when you have these tight ends that are capable of doing all facets of the game, you have to take care of business because they can stress you out and allow for other guys to get off.
Listen, the fact that you even brought up pickle juice in a week like this, where that's been a talking point, pickle juice, legitimately, for this Cowboys defense. Mike Zimmer on Monday was asked about the response coming in from that 44-point outburst that he gave up and his unit gave up against New Orleans last week. He said it reminded him of his first game as the defensive coordinator in Dallas back in the early 2000s against Philadelphia. They called it the pickle juice game at Texas Stadium because Philadelphia ran all over the Cowboys defense, led at that point by Mike Zimmer, and he said they used pickle juice on the sideline to hydrate in what was a warm early season game.
109-degree day.
A 90-degree day. So with all that being said, that same mentality, that same mindset goes to how they respond this week. And Mike Zimmer said, I fixed it. I fixed it, guys. Now, it took him about a year and a half, maybe 2 years to fix it. You got about a week because that guy is coming to your stadium, Lamar Jackson, the reigning MVP. So the challenge is on for this defense, Micah Parsons included, who at this point leads the NFL in pressures, fourth in the NFL in pressures with 12 so far this season. He said it's a prove-it game this week. What did you think about what he said, Barry, and how he wants to attack going into the week?
It's definitely a prove-it week in my eyes. All right, you got to step up and you got to be that guy that we all know you are. And you can't just start it in the first quarter, the second quarter. We need you to be out there making plays. The whole unit needs to go out there and make plays from quarter one all the way to quarter four. All right, this Baltimore offense needs to feel his presence throughout the entire game. When you look at the Cowboys, the knock on this team is, hey, they can't win against playoff caliber teams. Well, to me, this is a playoff caliber team, and we need all the stars, including Micah Parsons, to go out there and be the baller that we know he is for all four quarters.
We need Micah Parsons to be a chicken chaser today. Be a chicken chaser. Just go down there and chase this dude, Lamar Jackson, all over the field. And you stay on his heels. Be a pest, be annoying, be that little mosquito in your backyard that you just can't figure out where the heck he's going to be at. You can't get him, right? So be that guy today, but it's not just your job. You need the entire defensive line to do their job, because if you're running around chasing Lamar Jackson and you're chasing him all over the field and your defensive line, especially your interior defensive line, does not get vertical pressure and does not get into the backfield, then you're going to get tostidoed no matter who is toting the rock. It doesn't matter if it's doggone Richard, who's a fullback at 300 pounds. It doesn't matter if it's Derrick Henry. I don't care if it's Lamar Jackson. It doesn't matter if these guys don't get vertical, and you still have to contain this entire defense, this entire offense. So it's not just a Micah Parsons thing. Everybody wants to see him show up and show out. He'll do his job today in terms of being a pest on Lamar Jackson, but everybody has to show up and do their job today.
You got Al Harris embracing Lamar Jackson beforehand, and I mean, Al Harris isn't the one that really has to keep contained, and if he is, then that means there's a problem. If his guys are the ones that are having to tackle Lamar Jackson, that's the issue. But Micah did have some choice words early in the week talking about the respect that he has for Lamar and for Derrick Henry, but also challenging his guys to take care of business and show up with a little more effort than what they showed in week 2.
Toughness. Step up. It ain't no other choice. Derrick Henry going to come downhill whether or not Sunday night, so it's not like a matter of, are you going to stop it? It's just you going to do it or not, you know. I know I'm ready for the matchup. I know some other guys in the matchup, but, you know, it's just all going to come down to Sunday if you're going to live up to that or not.
With Lamar specifically, how unique of a challenge is that with his speed at quarterback and with guys like yourself with speed like you have and DeMaria, and how much does that give you a good chance to keep him in check?
I mean, it's a great chance. As long as we stay in our rush lanes, we do what we're supposed to do, but, you know, importantly is to get him to pass the ball. We didn't do a good enough job of that. So until we show we can earn the right to – I mean, what we had, 3 dropbacks last game? That's outrageous. Like, that's not even a football game. Like, it's like we're playing pony football all over again. So until we fix the fundamentals, I'm not even worried about Lamar at this point.
So a little bit of a challenge there from Micah Parsons as he looks ahead to Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. These two guys are dangerous, and the Cowboys, knowing on the defensive side of the football, they have to have more effort, execution, and alignment and assignment, certainly a big part of that as well. So he mentioned Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. Those guys have respect throughout the league. Barry Church, we've got the jackets off to the side. We've got the football back. That must mean it's time for some church service to try and break down how to slow down Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry.
Yeah, this defense is going to be in for a tough one. And I'm talking about when you look at the Baltimore Ravens and their read option look, it's one of the toughest that you got to go against, all right? They got speed in the backfield. They got strength in the backfield. But don't worry, your defensive coordinator, Barry Church, is going to break things down and show you how to defend the read option, especially that end man on the line of scrimmage. So I got the crew right here. I got my left tackle right here, big Nate Newton, who's going to hold it down on the offensive line for us. We got the big dog in the backfield, Kyle Humans. You're going to be 22, Derrick Henry.
Let's go.
If you had the jersey on, I wouldn't be able to tell the difference. I swear to goodness. And last but certainly not least, we got the main attraction here. We got our guy Isaiah Stanback, who's going to be playing Lamar Jackson out there. Now, quick nugget. You know, Isaiah was Lamar Jackson before Lamar Jackson, but Isaiah got a better arm in my opinion. So let's go ahead and break this thing down. When you talk about the read option, this guy on the end man on the line of scrimmage, to me, is one of the most important factors in this situation because he's contained, he's making sure he's responsible for Lamar Jackson, which is the most dangerous threat they have on their offensive side of the ball because he's explosive. When we saw what explosive plays happened to a defense last week, this guy on the end of the line of scrimmage has to make sure he trusts, all right, those guys on the inside. I'm talking about your defensive tackle, Mozzie Smith. I'm talking about Carlos Watkins. I'm talking about Odigizua. He has got to trust those guys to be able to handle their responsibility. Their responsibility is that dive with Derrick Henry. All right, your focus has got to be on Lamar Jackson. You can't be playing hero ball out there thinking you can make every single play out there because that's how your defense gets exposed. So with the example we're going to show right now is a guy that's playing hero ball, wants to make every play out there, wants to get all the stats. Big Nate, I need you to block down at the snap of the football. We're going to block down, and I need you, Isaiah, to keep this one. All right, ready? Go. I'm reading my keys. Oh, Phil, I got to get there. I got to get there. No, all right, that's what you do not need to happen. Like I just said, trust those guys on the inside to handle the dive. If you don't, you'll see Lamar Jackson going up the field about 20 to 50 yards down the line. Oof. And we do not want to see that, okay? Now, the other example we got out there is guys that like to hesitate, all right? You can't do that when you're at this position right here. It's too important. You got to know your responsibilities, and you got to hit it 100 miles an hour. When you go out there and hesitate, there's not a defensive lineman in the National Football League, certainly not on this roster, that can win a foot race with Lamar Jackson, all right? So this time, I'm going to give you a hesitation example out here. At the snap of the football, I need you, Big Nate, to go ahead and block down. Isaiah, keep it one more time for me. Ready? Go. All right, read my keys. Do I do that? Lamar? Do I do that? Lamar? No, at this time, it's too late, all right? You cannot hesitate when you're going against a guy like Lamar Jackson. Too much speed out there. He'll get around the corner. And like I said, there's not a player on this roster that can run a foot race with Lamar Jackson. You cannot hesitate when it comes to this. Last but certainly not least is the perfect technique that you got to use, all right? You got to be decisive. You got to understand what your responsibility is, trusting your guys on the inside to handle theirs, and go ahead and hit it at 100 miles an hour. Be decisive. At the snap of the ball, Big Nate, one more time, block down for me. Isaiah, you're going to come around with come around on the outside. Nate, one more time back. You got to wait until the ball snap. It's all good.
Ball
He was ready.
5-yard penalty.
That's a 5-yard penalty. We need that on the defensive side of the football. All right, here we go. Ready? And snap the ball. Downhill, boom. You're right there. You're right in his face. You need to be downhill. You need to be going to 100 miles an hour because in order to do that, that'll force Lamar Jackson to make a decision before he's ready to. And that, to me, is the key to stopping this read option. Come downhill 100 miles an hour, get in his face and let him know for all 4 quarters you're going to be there. Whether he hands the ball off, he's getting hit in the mouth. Whether he doesn't hand the ball off, he's getting hit in the mouth. You got to be on this guy at 100 miles an hour. To wrap this thing up, Kyle, put a bow on it. Got to trust your guys on the inside.
Yeah,
you got to know your technique. And with all calls, you got to go 100 miles an hour and get after Lamar Jackson. If you don't, it's a wrap.
You did a great job of explaining that. You're a little out of breath here. So imagine.
We're retired. Okay, we're retired. Leave my man alone.
My lungs.
Imagine what these defenders are going to go through when they're actually chasing Lamar Jackson, though. It wears down a defense. And, oh, by the way, you got big Derrick Henry that's running downhill. And if he ends up getting carries, it'll continue to wear down a front seven as well. Nicely done. Really like it. Church service on this Sunday. Ain't nothing better. Now, we do have some fan involvement this week. We talked about how the decisiveness of the of the Cowboys defense can slow down the Ravens run game. The Ravens defense, at least traditionally, has been very good at slowing down the run themselves. Dylan in San Antonio has a question surrounding that Ravens defense on really how they continue that tradition.
What's up, you guys? Dylan from San Antonio here. My question is, what does it speak to the Ravens culture where they've gone from the Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, Terrell Suggs era to this current era, and with all these new DCs and changing faces, they've still been able to maintain their tenacity and attention to detail on defense? All right, thanks, guys. Go Cowboys.
A phenomenal question from Dylan. And, of course, the Cowboys going up against this Ravens defense may see a different defense in 2024 than it was in 2023, but that tenacity, that physicality is still there. It's a new defensive coordinator with Zach Orr, who, of course, played his collegiate football at the University of North Texas in Denton and then made his way to the Ravens, played linebacker for them for a while. He still wants these guys going downhill, the safeties to play heavy. We talked about Roquan Smith and Kyle Hamilton all week long, but the numbers just aren't there in 2024. Isaiah, whenever it comes to that defense for the Ravens, I mean, is it a different look, and how has that tradition continued into 2024?
Yeah, well, Orr's bringing a very simplistic defense, right? You talk about somebody who's trying to get their career started as a defensive coordinator. He wants these guys to play fast. That means he doesn't want them thinking a bunch, which means that their schemes aren't that deep, right? They're not doing a ton defensively. But what they are doing is they have guys up front of the defensive line that are going to hold the fort and force these guys to double team them from the offensive line perspective. Roquan Smith at the second level is going to hit you in your mouth. On the secondary, you got Hamilton, you got Humphries, you got these guys that want to run and hit. They got two high shells where they want to force everybody and funnel everybody into one space. If you decide to catch the ball, they're going to hit you and make you think twice the next time you come over the middle.
Yes, these guys are very, very talented. And Coach, the new defensive coordinator, is just taking his time. And as time goes on, these guys will get better, and he will add more. But I'm with you. That front seven is still very, very physical.
Yeah, to me, this is a game where you look at that front seven and you have to run the ball just to keep them honest, all right? You don't want to go out there and let these guys pin their ear back and get after Dak Prescott the entire time. But to attack this defense, you got to do it in the secondary, in my opinion. Humphries is not what he once was. Kyle Hamilton is a beast back there, but you can expose this secondary. So to me, Dak Prescott in that arm should have a big day with these wide receivers.
There's a couple guys on that defense that still help set the tone for the Ravens defensively. We mentioned Roquan Smith, Kyle Hamilton. Both of those guys throughout their career have been turnover-forcing machines. Kyle Hamilton out of Notre Dame. Of course, they traded for Roquan Smith. Both were added in the same season, 2022. And since they've been teammates, they continue wrecking offenses on the opposite side of things. I mean, how have they combined to be these turnover forcers and been the enforcers on this Ravens defense?
Yeah, I mean, just like the Ravens of old defense, right? Who was in the middle of their defense? Ray
Ray
Lewis, right?
Yeah.
You did not want to go across the middle because you knew that you were going to pay the price for it. This game's changed in terms of rules, but he can still hit you in the chest if he wants to. Okay, you talk about Hamilton on the outside. What does he do well? Well, he does a good job of sitting in these zones, right? He sits in the zones, and if you decide to throw the ball, an errant throw that's not highly accurate inside these small windows, then he is a long, lanky guy who can go out there and make you pay for it with these turnovers. But if you can force these guys into a single high shell, then you run into problems because Roquan Smith is going to come screaming towards the line of scrimmage trying to stop the run. And then Hamilton, guess what? He can't play man-to-man defense. So CD, go out there and eat. Still Zeke's celebration.
I tell you what, man, Numney, number 2, number 92, I can't pronounce his last name.
Matabike.
Yeah, and Michael Pierce, number 58. These are horses that allow this linebacker to come down and make plays. So we got to be stout up front in trying to move these guys.
Yeah, when you talk about Matabike right there, he's the big stout guy in the middle, all right? And he covers up those offensive linemen. But the key to getting after this Ravens defense, like you said, is in the secondary. But you got to get those offensive linemen to the second level. I understand Roquan Smith, he's a tackling machine. But make him go through the offensive linemen in order to get to your backs. Let him go out there and confuse and shed tackles, get them tired, and then we'll see what happens in the fourth quarter.
And I can't get past the fact that you make a horse
yes,
noise.
I sure did.
What was that?
Clydesdales they got in there. They got some Clydesdales. And they got the big boys, right? I mean, they face some big boys.
You talking about getting to the second level, right? You talking about getting hip to hip, trying to move a dude that's 6 feet, 355 pounds, and Micah Parsons.
How much?
That's hard to do.
Big boy.
And you got Isaiah, which will be our guy trying to come across. We got to decide who's going to get off. So I'm going to push you on off so you can get into that. Yeah, so you can get on that. Yeah, so they got some horses up there. Number 92, number 58, number 98, I can't call his name right now. They got some horses. They run a 3-4 defense. 3 down linemen, center cover, tackles covered. And they got these 2 guys at linebacker, and they bringing the heat.
And what's their role? Those big boys on the inside. What's
They
their
eat up
primary role?
blocks. They want to eat up blocks. They want you to deuce block them so Roquan Smith can just, annihilate you. Zeke, get ready today, Zeke. Get ready.
I have a feeling that whenever we return for post-game coverage on Cowboys Game Night, Cowboys OT, the first word, we're going to be answering a lot of what Dylan just asked us about with this Ravens defense and how they handled the Cowboys offensive attack. Now, we've got some other stuff coming up later in the show as well. We'll have it in this main monitor behind, so let's take a step this way. CeeDee Lamb, of course, he is the one that Isaiah thinks it's time for him to eat today. We'll have him a little bit later in the show. We're going to hear from CeeDee and talk about his involvement. Stephen Jones, of course. Stephen Jones, Cowboys COO, will join us one-on-one with Nick Eatman on the sidelines at AT&T Stadium. And then, of course, we'll talk more about the pressure on Mike McCarthy and company. Coach Mike in a spot where they want to be above 500, but also they want to protect home field. How important is that? Let's talk to Mike McCarthy here, his respect for John Harbaugh, and trying to avoid those back-to-back losses.
I have a ton of respect for John in the job that he's done there. I think consistency is the thing that jumps out to me. With John, I'm a big fan of the Harbaugh family. Just Tom Crean, his brother-in-law, is a dear friend of mine. So, yeah, I think when you play John's team, they're go back to the competitions that we had in the past. When I was in Green Bay, so they play the same way, and I think his background in special teams has been a big plus for his team. So you're going to be challenged in all three phases.
Mike, you've won 10 of your last 11 games after a loss. Why do you feel like your team seems to bounce back so well after?
Just the great motivation that comes out of the great questions the media asked me is critical to the process. So staying true to the process. I just think really what I talked about earlier, we just got to stay in tune with getting better each and every day, regardless of what happened in the last game. And I think this locker room does a really good job of that.
Lots of respect for the Baltimore Ravens and what they do as a franchise, and they've earned that respect throughout the years, of course, with John Harbaugh and company. What he has done has been remarkable, trying to build that identity, and Mike McCarthy looking to replicate the winning ways here in Dallas. Back alongside Nate Newton. Cowboys have done a good job whenever they get up early. They get that early start. They get off to a hot start enough to where their defense can let loose and they can kind of get these pass rushers rolling. How important is it to get off to a hot start today?
If you receive the kickoff, if you have the option for the kickoff, you have to take it. You need 3, you need 7, because our defense is predicated on us getting some type of lead. And if we can get 7 points, that turns loose our rush guys, and that's where we're great at. That turns loose the guys in the secondary to make plays. But if we are even or we're a little bit behind, it asks us to do something that we're not great at, and that's be run defenders.
Also, not to mention, whenever you are ahead, a lot of time, or whenever you're working from behind like that, you have to throw the ball around a little bit more. And if you're throwing the ball around a little bit more, it puts your guys on the offensive line in a tough position. Tyler Guyton has given up some pressures so far this season. What have you seen from Tyler, and how can he improve going into week 3?
This is his, third or fourth game at left tackle. I think he only played 1 in college, so he played 2 here. He didn't have a great preseason because he was sick half of that preseason, so he's learning how to play this. He's not just giving up quick escapes. He is at least working through this work. So give this young guy a chance. He should be okay by the fourth or fifth game.
What have you seen on film that has kept him from being uber successful?
Oh, he want to lean. In this league, you can't lean because when you lean, you shorten corners. You see what I'm saying? He got 36, 40, 80-inch arms. Use those arms to run guys around, and he would be okay. That 5 or 6 inches, maybe that foot, what makes the difference in having a clean pocket or your quarterback getting harassed.
And he's also gone up against some of the best pass rushers in football over the first 2 weeks. he doesn't have as much of a big pass rusher to deal with today, just that front seven as a whole that brings pressure in their own right. Let's go into the inactive list for this Week 3 matchup with the Baltimore Ravens. Mentioned all the way through Buddy Johnson, Matt Waletzko, Ryan Flanoy, John Stevens Jr. At the tight end position. One name you're not going to see up there is you're not going to see Jake Ferguson. Jake Ferguson active for today's game. This was expected throughout the week. Even Dak Prescott saying that if it was a more intensive game earlier in the year or later in the year rather, that he could have gone last week in Week 2. How big is it to have Ferguson back in the fold?
He's the middle of your offense. When Dak needs that blanket to get things going in the middle of the field, he's there. But what he brings there is enthusiasm. He's a tough guy. He can help set the edge so we can get the running game going. He's that guy that makes it easier for CeeDee Lamb, because CeeDee Lamb don't have to do everything, run across the middle of the field, run down the field. This guy can hit the seams. He can catch the quick passes into flares into the flat. This guy's a ball of enthusiasm. I love Fergie.
Any chance that they limit his action today?
No. There ain't no limit. Ain't no limit. Put this guy out there and let him ball. If you're going to limit him, just play the other eight or nine tight ends. Come on, man.
Make these other guys active. Make sure that they're good to go. And then, whatever. Jake, we'll make sure we'll put you out there a couple different times.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you. I think he's ready to come back and make a full impact, and this is going to be a big step forward for this Cowboys offense. All right, we've got plenty of things to talk about later in the show, but we got to talk about this another number 2 weapon as well, with Jake Ferguson returning and put some extra pressure on Brandin Cooks to get open on the outside as well. Nicole Hutchison at AT&T Stadium has more on that.
Listen, Kyle, this game is going to be so much fun to watch, not only because of the sense of urgency that both the Cowboys and the Ravens have to win today, but because I spoke with Brandin Cooks earlier this week, and he said that this offense is just looking forward to showing what they finally can do. They've struggled offensively in both the passing and in the run game, just 3 offensive touchdowns between this team. But when you talk about the lack of confidence that you would think that they would have just based off the struggles, I asked Brandin Cooks, what's your confidence level heading into this game of this offense? And he said, look at my face. Doesn't look like I've wavered in confidence at all. So that told me everything that I needed to know. But here's what else he had to say.
I believe so much in our offense. It's just September football, right? We go out there week 1, we get a win. Week 2 wasn't what we wanted to be, but at the end of the day, if you really truly believe in your process and your foundation, all it is just get back to work, you know what I mean, and just detail some stuff out, and we're there. Now we just got to go out there on Sunday and display everything that we've been working on through spring training camp and throughout the week.
And you talk about the belief in this offense.
Yeah.
How much do you believe in this running game?
Yeah.
Because again, it is still, September football, like Mike McCarthy said. But how much confidence do you have in this run game being the group to get the success?
I got a lot of confidence in our backs and the guys up front blocking for the run game, and the guys on the perimeter, being selfless and continue to block for the run game. It's just one of those things. We're gonna get going, and when it does, you know what I mean, we're all gonna sit back and be like, I told you. So it's not necessarily trying to find it. We got it. We just got to go out there once again and just put that on film.
What does this week look like for you guys, just trying to turn the page?
Yeah, exactly what you said. Turning the page, right? Getting back to your fundamentals. That's what September football is about, right? How fast can you get to your foundation, your fundamentals? And that's typically the team that goes out there and win in September. And so getting back into the practice field today and throughout this week, just once again, truly believing in your process, going to work, and just really just doing your job, worrying about your job and everything else to take care of itself.
You got involved early in week 1, had your first touchdown of the season. Last year was a little different. You had your first touchdown in October. How good did it feel for you to get involved so early in the year?
I mean, it felt good, you know what I mean? And I'm just the type of guy that's just going to do my job the best that I can, and when my number's called, try to go out there and make the play, right? And like I said, continue to just trust, in the play caller, trust in our quarterback, but at the end of the day, understanding that, we like to distribute the ball here, and that's the beauty of it. Everybody touches the ball, and that's when you typically see, us winning consistently, and that's what it's all about.
What are your goals for yourself individually this year?
Just help my team just go out there, win regular season games, and when we get to postseason, taking care of that as well. Just being the best teammate I can be, continue to be that playmaker that I know I am, and also lead my team in a candid way.
So Brandin Cooks is going to be under a bit of pressure today because a lot of these wide receivers are not getting open. The separation isn't built, and Brandin Cooks is expected as a guy who has been a 1,000-yard receiver in every other team he's played for, but hasn't been there yet. He has the one touchdown early in the year, of course, in week 1. But, Barry, overall, you want to see more from BC.
Yeah, I would love to see more from Cooks out there. And this is one of those guys that you got to take advantage of your one-on-one opportunities. We understand what defenses are going to try to do to this offense, take away CeeDee Lamb. They're going to try to double, get all the resources towards him. Brandin Cooks is going to have a lot of one-on-one action out there, and it's up to him to win those one-on-ones. Will he get the football? I'm not sure, but he's got to know that he can get open versus those one-on-one coverages, whether it's man, zone, whatever the case may be. He's got to learn to take advantage of those.
Well, I hate to say it, Barry. There's not going to be much man-to-man defense today. Okay, they're not going to play too much man because the Dallas Cowboys have to run the ball in order to get these guys in the man coverage. So Brandin Cooks does need to be the man that takes full advantage of this defense, but he's going to have to be able to do so versus zone. So look to see BC in those little 12 to 14-yard little hooks. Okay, so look to see him in those 12 to 14-yard little in routes. He's going to be a possession guy to help these guys move the chains down the field. But I'm going to say this right now. He is the most underutilized receiver in the game today. He is a very viable receiver who's still capable of getting 1,000 yards like he's done his entire career. Dallas just has to look for him and find him and get him the rock.
So you're saying, Isaiah, that we have not used him properly at this point, that he is that guy that be open. We just need to look for him more.
Yep.
Okay, I'm watching today.
Yeah.
I'm watching.
Yeah, with the wide receivers position, I mean, you're going to have other guys step up too. Jalen Tolbert's one. You have Brandin Cooks, of course. And then maybe even some of those other pass catchers out of the backfield. Rico Dowdle and Ezekiel Elliott, some of their most effective snaps have been when they've been utilized in the screen game and the passing game. Maybe we'll see a little bit more of that as we go along. You guys ready to play a little bit of which one?
Let's do it.
I'm going to give you a couple of options here, one way or the other, in order to pick who has the advantage in some of the best matchups of this Cowboys-Ravens game. Let's start with wide receiver CeeDee Lamb, which he's matched up with Marlon Humphrey at times. You laugh, Isaiah. Why?
Because man-to-man, it's not even a game. You can't stick CD with any of these defensive backs. None of their cornerbacks, none of their safeties can guard CeeDee Lamb man-to-man. The only problem is you're probably not going to see man-to-man coverage because they're going to stay too high shell.
Yeah, I'm going with CeeDee Lamb all day. If you decide to stick Humphreys on him, whatever the case may be, he's going for 200 yards. I mean, simple as that. Zone coverage, man coverage. If he's on the same side as Humphreys, I'm going with CeeDee Lamb all day.
I'd have went bold predictions if I knew it would be Humphrey versus CeeDee Lamb. Man-to-man, I'd have gave up 3 points.
You're talking about a little bit later on in the show. A little bit later on with a little call your shot. We've got that coming up later as well. Now, on the opposite side, Zay Flowers has some opportunity to have some impact against the Cowboys secondary. Just like CeeDee Lamb, he is a nightmare in man-to-man coverage because of his speed. Of course, they spent a high draft pick on him a couple years ago, and he has rewarded them throughout his 18 games so far in the NFL. Nate, when it comes to Zay Flowers, who has the advantage, him or, of course, Trayvon Diggs and Kalen Carson at the second level?
I think Diggs smart enough to handle his business and play the situations. Carson.
Kalen Carson.
Back up, baby. Kind of read him and see where he's going. That's all I can tell you.
I'm going to go with Zay Flowers on this one, mainly because I know that Kalen Carson only has a regular seatbelt and not a 5-point harness just yet. So you need to go ahead and use all of that because Zay Flowers is going to probably be in the same situation as Rashid Shaheed was in last week when he was able to get over the top of our safeties. If you're staying in your back pedal, you don't get out your back pedal, he's going to run right over the top of you. And if you're not playing too high safeties, then you're probably going to be light in the box. So they're going to put you in a predicament. You're going to have to make sure you stay on your keys.
Yeah, I'm going Zay Flowers as well. I mean, not only from the route running aspect, but who you got in the backfield. You got Lamar Jackson, one of the best quarterbacks at extending the play. And I don't care who you are as a defensive back. The longer you got to cover a guy out there, it makes it extremely hard. So if Lamar Jackson's able to run around out there, Zay Flowers will eventually get open.
All right, Isaiah, I'm going to start with you on this one. Cowboys offensive line versus the Ravens defensive line.
I'm going to go with the Ravens defensive line. I want to go with the Cowboys offensive line, but when we're talking about this, we're talking about the running game. I'm not fearful of the Ravens rushing, their pass rush, but I am fearful of their run-stopping ability. And if they are able to be effective like that, they've been all year long so far these first 2 games by limiting to 50 yards on the ground, then guess what? Dak has to throw the ball 40 times.
Man, give me the Cowboys offensive line. I don't care nothing about all that big boys in the middle. I don't care nothing about none of that. All right, the Cowboys offensive line, they understood what happened last week. They got wore out. All right, they're going to come into this game with something to prove and going out there. They're going to move those big boys. They're going to get to the second level against Roquan Smith and those boys, and they're going to be able to run the football over 100 yards for them. Give me the Cowboys offensive line.
Wow. I'm desperate. I'm with you. They're going to have to. They're going to have to, whether they want to or not, get this running game going. And Coach McCarthy, you're going to have to run the ball at least 30 times. Figure out a way.
How many?
30.
For over 100.
We got to keep what's called off the field. You got to keep the other guys off the field.
Listen here. Okay, here we go wide shot on this one. Listen, do not run your head into a brick wall. Try your best to get some good down and distance, but do not do it at the expense of beating your head against the wall. Because 355 pounds, the only person that's been able to move them up here is this man over here, Nate Newton. Okay? And he knows how difficult it is when you have 700 pounds next to each other in defensive front, being able to move those guys backwards. Easier said than done. I like both of our Pro Bowl guards, but let's keep it real. Both these guys have not been playing up to par yet. Okay, and we need those three, including Cooper Beebe, to be able to have some kind of impact up front. Haven't seen it yet. Need to see it today.
Crank up the tractor.
That's it. Let's get a movement. Better get a moving.
I think it may be a split case. I think I'm with Isaiah on this one. I haven't seen it from the offensive line yet. Plus, I think the defensive line from the Ravens is pretty good. They're maybe not the pressure that the pass rush, but from standing their ground and holding the line of scrimmage, they can do that pretty darn well.
Come on, man.
Okay, how about
give me some, man.
We go from the trenches, which is Nate Newton's favorite topic, to his actual favorite topic. How about the kicking game? Which kicker would you prefer at this moment in time, Brandon Aubrey, or maybe what you could consider to be the GOAT of kickers, Justin Tucker? Nate, I'll start with you.
Brandon is going up. My man Justin Tucker is leveling off. Coach John said if you're leveling off, that means you're going down. So I'm going with Brandon Aubrey.
What do you think, Barry?
I'm going with Aubrey as well. I mean, once you pass the 50-yard line, it's automatic points for a guy like that. So to me, you got to go hit Brandon Aubrey right there. He's going to be able to hold it down. Give me our kicker all day.
Yeah, I'm going with BA as well, but he's definitely out there giving out a master's degree because he's showing off all day long.
Showing off, and he's really been the most consistent kicker in the NFL. But the NFL as a whole, actually, kickers have done a really nice job to start the 2024 season. Every 50-plus yard kick attempted has been made except for two. Out from 50 yards out or more. The only two misses, both from Justin Tucker. Just something to keep an eye on. Just something to keep an eye on. That's a little which one. Just talking about some of these matchups. Stock down for Justin Tucker today. We'll see what he ends up doing indoors at AT&T Stadium. Speaking of indoors at AT&T, let's go back to the sideline where Nick Eatman catches up with Cowboys COO Stephen Jones.
Thank you, Kyle. And as always, joined here by Stephen Jones, Cowboys Chief Operating Officer. And Stephen, I know that we talked earlier in the week. You wanted to get rid of that Saints game as quickly as possible. The best way to forget that is to go out and play well here today.
Well, no question. And, the challenge is going to be who we're playing. I mean, these Ravens are a really good football team. They're 0-2. Obviously, we've been there before. That next win becomes so important. So we're going to see their very best. But, we've got to go out and prove something too. So, looking forward to it, looking forward to the challenge, and feel like we'll answer the challenge.
I know the word, must win and desperate is too early for that, but do you like what you saw from your team this week in practice, the response?
I mean, we're 1-1. There's a lot of football left, and obviously, our goal is every time we line up is go out and play well and hopefully get a W, and that's what our goal is here today, is go out and play well. Our offense moved the ball good last week. We just didn't get touchdowns, so we need to get the ball in the end zone, and then defensively we just, it's one of those weeks where they just got hot, and hats off to the Saints.
Yeah, I think as we're taping this, I'm not even sure if the Saints have scored a touchdown in this game against the Eagles. So it's one of those things that every game is different. And if you had to put your finger on one thing for this defense that you think will get better, what would that be?
Yeah, I just think we got to get in there and play technique and execute on what Mike's trying to get done. And obviously, it all starts with the running game. I mean, we've got to get in there and really do a good job against their running game. I mean, not only they got one of the best backs to play in Henry, and then their quarterback dynamic. I mean, he's rare, and so we'll have our hands full.
running game on your end for the Cowboys offense. There's been by committee. Who are you thinking might get the most touches here? Or is it going to be kind of one of those who's hot?
I don't think it's about that. I think it's about using them all, using their skill sets. And, obviously if someone were to get hot, I'm sure Mike would leave them in there. But if they were to get really hot. But the goal is to keep them all fresh and keep them going.
Now, Luke Schoonmaker did a nice job last week in his first start, but it's a little different when Jake Ferguson's back. He is healthy for this game. What are you excited to see for him?
Well, Dak's got a lot of rapport with him in terms of them working together. We want to keep Schoonmaker going too, and we obviously don't want to overdo Ferguson, in his first game back. So we've got a good group of tight ends in there. Span Ford's doing a great job for us. We really like that group.
All right. Are you going to be the spy for Lamar Jackson? Is there a spy? I mean,
well, we could hand in the towel if I were going to be the spy. But no, Mike and Mike have a great plan, and look forward to seeing this game.
All right, sounds great. All right, that's Stephen Jones, Cowboys Chief Operating Officer. Thanks for stopping by. Kyle, I'll throw it back to you.
Sounds like an old radio show, right? Mike and Mike. Mike Zimmer, Mike McCarthy. I mean, it was an old radio show, but we've got Cowboys pregame live wrapping up on the TV side of things here. Barry Church, Isaiah Stanback, Nate Newton. I'm Kyle Yeomans. Time now for a little Call Your Shot. This is our weekly pick'em segment. And guys, we were just talking about Justin Tucker's stock dropping. We cannot have our stock drop any lower, especially for one guy that's Isaiah Stanback.
Listen, man, everybody lives on debt.
Rough.
I got a loan. You need a loan? I got you.
Somebody get the credit card out because Isaiah's going to have to use some debit right
Everybody
there.
has a mortgage. We're good.
Yeah, right. Okay, so that's how many points are left. You can wager how many points you have remaining for your bold prediction each week. If you get it right, you get those points back. Plus, you double your point total, of course, in that regard. And Isaiah, since you're at 0, you can only go with 1 point. We're giving you a loan from the bank at this point.
I'm calling the church credit union.
Yeah.
I got
really, Nate's got 5 points. So
Nate's been playing it real chill. Nate been cruise controlling
We'll
this
see
thing.
if he gets bold today. We'll start with Barry, though. What you got in your Call Your Shot?
I got 1 point. 1 point that this Dallas defense is going to hold Derrick Henry, King Henry, to only 100 or under 100 yards rushing. I feel like those guys in the middle are going to have that same performance they did against the Cleveland Browns earlier this season.
So you're saying 99 yards?
Maybe. As long as he doesn't go 100, we getting the dub.
Let's go to Nate for yours.
Okay.
I got CeeDee Lamb 115 yards. You had him last week at 90, and he didn't make it. So I'm saying this dude, it's time for him to break open his third week. Boom, 115 yards.
How many points?
I'm giving up 1 point.
I'm riding that way until I thought we were going to get bold. What is going on?
Nate like the grandpa that gives out the fanny pack, gives you a $1 bill. He got a whole wad of hundreds, but he other just give you a $1 bill.
How much you need?
Let me lick my fingers real quick.
Okay. Now, I'm a little bit more frugal with that. I got 2 points on the line. I only have 2 points remaining, so I'm going all in, baby. That's what I'm going with. How about this? CeeDee Lamb last week had a bad beat for me at 4 catches, 90 yards. I had him for 100. Didn't have a catch in the second half at all. I thought we were good last week. Not the case. How about this one, though? Dak Prescott, 300 yards passing for the first time this year. He's going to light up the Ravens defense, and he's going to put some points on the board. 300 yards through the air for Dak Prescott. Isaiah, your 1 point wager, sir.
That's right. You guys know who I am. Okay, I go hard in the paint. Okay, I lost the first week with my 3 points. You know what I'm saying? In terms of my boy, not Tyler Smith, not giving up any sacks. He gave up a strip. Okay, it was a strip. It wasn't even a sack. He didn't even touch the ground. Okay, so I lost 3 points there. We had 1 interception instead of 2 I predicted last week. That's okay. I'm coming back on some debt and some credit today with 1 point on the line. All right, coming from the tomb, and I'm coming up to the surface because I believe that the Ravens are going to run the ball at least 50% of the time today. They're going to hand that thing off to Lamar. Lamar Jackson going to have it. They're going to give it to Patrick Richard. They're going to give it out to Derrick Henry. Shoot, the doggone Barry Church might put a uniform on and go run the ball. But they're going to run the ball more than they're going to pass the ball today.
Did you say 50%?
50%. He did say that.
I said that.
You just made it.
Say that.
Cried 2 tears in a bucket.
Yeah.
Take it to the stage.
50%? So they're going to run the ball half the time? That's your bold prediction?
Over. That's bold, baby.
Whatever.
Bold, baby.
What is this? They haven't done it yet, so maybe it is a bold prediction, but I don't like it. I don't like it.
He's trying to get back up.
He's trying to get back into it.
Marvin Sapp, baby.
Keys to the game real quick before we say goodbye.
Do not let Lamar Jackson be that dual threat guy, all right? Contain him in the pocket, make him force you to beat you from the pocket. I don't think he can do so.
I'm going to go ahead and go to the offensive line. If you don't run the ball, find a way to move these big fellas off the line of scrimmage, these newer versions of Gilbert Brown that my guy Nate used to take care of, then you're going to be in a world of trouble.
Yeah. You got to run the ball 25-plus times. You got to control the line of scrimmage along with time of possession. You cannot let Lamar and company control that game. You cannot let them set the tempo.
And well, that's going to do it for us here on Cowboys Pregame Live. Cowboys getting underway. This is what I think about your prediction, Isaiah. That's terrible. 50 rushing yards. That's unbelievable. For Barry Church, Isaiah Stanback, Nate Newton, I'm Kyle Yeomans. We will see you after the game with Cowboys Game Night and Cowboys OT on DallasCowboys.com. Cowboys-Ravens, first meeting since 2020 on Fox at 3:25.